Star, 23rd of November 2023, How China's Hegemonic Vision is Transforming the World. As our time in China ended, 2 other Belt and Road Forum attendees suggested we visit a location not on the official schedule. In the hotel lobby at midnight, a Sri Lankan person informed me, "You can't come to China and not visit Tiananmen Square. It would be equivalent to visiting America and missing the Statue of Liberty." So, after yet another exhausting day of meetings and tours, the 3 of us got together at 5:15 a.m., braved the cool morning air, boarded the train, and navigated the language barrier to pass security. A vibrant atmosphere welcomed us as we arrived. On our left, a garden of green hedges was covered with red and yellow flowers. One of the square's many attractions, the Forbidden City, was accessible through the Gate of Heavenly Peace, dominated by a portrait of Chairman Mao Zedong. The flag zone was on the other side, across an 8-lane highway whose traffic had been suspended for the event. Since many people were already at the central viewpoint, we moved outside the guardrails to get a better, up-close view. About 100 troops, the Honor Guard, began to march in from the walkway beside our sector at about 6:30 p.m. Everyone except the person waving the flag had weapons pointed upwards, some in white, some in olive green. As we followed the procession to the flagpole, the crowd quieted down. The national anthem, March of the Volunteers, was performed by a band while the soldiers hoisted the crimson flag with yellow stars for around 60 seconds. As the sun set, they completed their solemn task and returned to their barracks. And that was it. It was astounding to witness how widely attended such an ordinary event, one that wasn't just for special occasions but took place every day, could be. Thousands of people, many waving small flags, flocked from around China to see it. They were young and old, some with families. A financial miracle. This was a part of China that was rarely featured in the media. During the welcome banquet last week, we had a dinner conversation with one of our hosts, who informed us that after 30 to 40 years of unbroken development, most Chinese people were obliged to be content with the government. I was raised in a Jiangxi village. Driving on the dirt roads that once existed when it rains becomes difficult. Since cement is present on most roads, you can conduct business rain or shine, he remarked. Most homes were constructed of dirt, some wood, but mainly muck. Nowadays, bricks and cement make up 90%. Transit had advanced significantly as well. The majority of people used bicycles in the past. Nowadays, the majority of families own 1 or more cars, he claimed. There were other motivators than the government. Also, the Chinese attitude, added Larry, a fellow diner organizing our visit. The poverty appalled them greatly. Back in the 1950s, my father had nothing to eat. This never again mentality dates back to the century of humiliation, which ran from 1839 to 1949 and saw foreign powers colonize and dominate China. China, which had once been an imperial giant with a dragon as a symbol of its might and prosperity, ran out of luck during this period of widespread opium addiction, death, disease, and destruction. It wasn't much better from the 1950s to the 1970s. After the Second World War, China struggled to rebuild its economy under an ineffective planned system. The government regulated almost all trade and industry, and goods were distributed equally to all parties, regardless of individual contribution. The 1980s marked a paradigm shift. China, especially after joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, transitioned from trade protection to globalization and adopted a market system. Western investors flooded China with money, technology, and managerial know-how, taking advantage of the country's large labor pool, currently 1.4 billion people, to transform the country into the world's factory. China's annual average growth rate for 30 years was 10%, which experts deemed a miracle. The nation has changed due to the government's massive financial infusion into public infrastructure. It ended up with so many lanes that you wondered how drivers could maneuver through them. With such swift trains, a plane wasn't vital. With skyscrapers that high, you asked if the sky was the limit. China's economy is currently the second largest in the world. Its most significant accomplishment is lifting 770 million people out of poverty in 40 years. A fundamental element of the Chinese dream aimed to see China achieve moderately prosperous society status by the 200s. With a per capita income of roughly $12,800, sh 1.9 million, 6 times less than the United States' largest economy, it is still considered a developing nation. It is also human, as seen by current issues with its real estate market and youth unemployment. However, it continues to be the geopolitical adversary that America fears the most and has the largest middle class in the world. Desire for communication. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, one of history's most significant infrastructure projects, China is now sharing its modernization journey with the rest of the world. This vast land and sea trade channel network is changing how the world is connected. The Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, was proposed by President Xi Jinping in 2013 and has subsequently been embraced by approximately 150 out of 195 countries worldwide. However, the emerging story paints the picture of a debtor, a human rights violator, and a significant polluter. China believes that much of the criticism comes from Western nations advocating for impoverished developing countries whose media possesses more discursive power. Some foreigners with full bellies and nothing better to do engage in finger-pointing at us as we steal their lunch, Xi Jinping famously mocked. Due to the political challenges of overseeing such a large-scale initiative, neighboring India, Italy, and the Philippines have remained out of the BRI. However, given the adage that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, it's telling that the G7 is lagging behind the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, which was established in 2022 to protect the world from Chinese debt entrapment. In 2017, China started inviting trade, corporate, and opinion leaders, mainly from the Global South's oppressed nations, to the Belt and Road Forum to strengthen its international hegemony. It was the third edition this year. In October, it brought over 10,000 delegates worldwide to Beijing. Approximately 70 chiefs of media organizations and young journalists from countries along the Belt and Road were invited to participate in one of the event's people-to-people exchanges. On behalf of the Kenya Editors Guild, I spoke. Under the auspices of the Belt and Road Journalists Network, the All China Journalists Association, which co-organized the event with the Communication University of China, stated, "The purpose of this forum is to promote our hegemony through face-to-face meetings and to deepen understanding." The Beijing Friendship Hotel, which featured an artificial waterfall in front, was where we were all assembled for the launch. 25 journalists from 11 nations, including myself, traveled by bus from another hotel to the venue. Unlike this red and green one, ours featured a cream facade with a revolving door and a robot to take deliveries from the reception to the guests' rooms. A Namibian woman once took advantage of this and had her food brought to the third floor. She declared, "I want the full Chinese four-year experience," alluding to the impending Fourth Industrial Revolution. Partnered future. China was emerging from zero-COVID lockdowns that had slowed its economy for 3 years, much longer than the rest of the globe. It announced to the world that it was again available for business through the Belt and Road Forum. There were no smoking zones as in Nairobi, and even though I had carried my mask out of habit, I only wore it because of the widespread puffing. I observed that very few people still used masks. It was a welcome guest here, despite the West's attempts to isolate Russia because of the conflict in Ukraine. The only unpleasant moment occurred when their Polish counterpart ambushed their media chief to participate in the symbolic striking of a bell for peace. Speeches lamenting the Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza were a less dramatic way to release geopolitical emotions. Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, was the honored guest at the primary function. The previous conference in 2019 brought together 11 European leaders, this time, only Viktor Orban, Hungary, and Alexander Vučić, Serbia, Putin's loyalists, attended. Putin gave CGTN an exclusive interview in the lead-up to the forum, the first he had passed since the start of the Ukrainian war. Xi Jinping's theoretical concept of creating a global community of a shared future is being practically implemented through the Belt and Road Initiative, he informed Wang Guan, a prominent Chinese journalist whom we encountered during the second week of seminars. Putin said that the BRI's focus on shared benefits rather than imposing a will on others first drew him to the concept. Speaking at a press conference earlier in the year, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Mao Ning hinted at that subtly critical statement directed towards the West when she stated that Chinese loans have no conditions. The spokesperson stated that China respects the will of relevant countries, adheres to market laws and international regulations, has never forced any party to borrow money or make payments, will not attach any political conditions to loan agreements, and does not seek political self-interest. Railway standard gauge. In over 60 years of bilateral relations, China has become Kenya's top trading partner, primary road builder, and introductory training and education provider. The standard gauge railway, which shortened the duration of passenger trains from Mombasa to Nairobi from about 10 hours to roughly 5.5, is the face of the Belt and Road Initiative in Kenya. Over 40,000 Kenyans have been employed directly or indirectly by the company since its founding in 2017. During that time, it has carried 26 million tons of cargo in addition to 10 million passengers, bringing in $91 billion in income. There is, however, the controversy surrounding the SGR deal's secrecy, which gave rise to subsequently refuted rumors that the port of Mombasa was used as collateral. Even with the rising firm, operating costs continue to outpace revenue, which makes it difficult to pay back the Chinese loan. President William Ruto had announced that Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua would request to examine the loan terms before the Belt and Road Forum. No subsequent reports of a breakthrough surfaced. China has, nevertheless, demonstrated adaptability by engaging in debt restructuring talks with Zambia, Ghana, and Sri Lanka. Additionally, a World Bank and other Western experts survey indicated that China had bailed out 22 developing countries in economic crisis, suggesting that it is becoming more of a Shylock-like debt manager. It sometimes receives criticism for recipient nations' poor debt management since, as was mentioned during a debt conference in Nairobi in 2021, a large portion of borrowed funds is wasted on corruption and ongoing costs rather than being utilized for growth. Furthermore, despite being Kenya's top bilateral lender, China is exaggeratedly portrayed in the media. For instance, a caricature in the local newspaper depicted Ruto traveling to China with an open bowl to beg, where loans were transferred directly to the lender's second bowl. One sees that Kenya's relationship with China is characterized by debt. Ruto called it a myth. He said to Wang Guan, "The truth is that China is our biggest high-debt, high-interest holder outside the Belt and Road Forum. We have enormous relationships with the World Bank, the IMF, the European Union, the US, and many other destinations." As of March 2023, China is responsible for just 17% of Kenya's recognized total external debt, according to the National Treasury. One of China's pet peeves is skewed coverage. Since Chinese debt is primarily hidden, greater transparency would be beneficial.